Welcome back to yet another episode of the Blank Page Podcast, featuring myself. And
I'm Claudio.
all right, welcome back,
Awesome.
man. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
No complaints.
Excellent. So this is what episode 5 now?
This must be five. Yeah,
Man, time flies. It's like it was just yesterday that we said, "Whoa,
let's
should we
do it.
try this recording this thing?" Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. Next thing you know, bam.
Five episodes deep already.
Yeah, very good. Are you enjoying it?
I am actually. I get to sit in the office and ramble about all of the things going on in my mind with someone who I really admire and someone who helps drive me and all of my pursuits to become a better person, developer, etc. So it's been pretty cool. I think, and this is skipping ahead a little bit, we should
Sure.
even explore the idea of bringing in some guests from our own office.
I had been thinking about that too. So, quickly, just like to
Hmm.
set the story right here. Like this is for anybody who's been following. It's a whole different scenario or background and everything, right? Because usually we record these at the improving office,
Yep.
right? And we've experimented with different rooms there. Today we're recording off of our home offices because today I happen to be working at the client site, which is pretty close to my house. And I said, well, we still want to record it. Like, should we just do the full remote option this time around? It's like, yep, let's do it. Right. So yeah, I had been thinking about that. I didn't mention, so thanks for mentioning. I did think about that, like bringing some guests and like what would we do to like figure out who should be guesting? Like what would be the driving force for us to invite like ideas, resonance analysis, topics that people have been mentioning to us, all of the above.
I would say all of the above, but if we are to select, I think we should just put out like feelers. Let people know, hey, we are interested in having guests on the show. Would you be interested in checking us out, coming and hanging out with us for an hour and speaking to
Yeah.
whatever topic is on your mind?
Hmm.
I think that would be cool. So we don't have to make anything like fancy, like, hey, sign up at this QR code or whatever. It's like, hey, you know what we do. If you're interested in coming and hanging out with us, let us know
Yeah,
and we'll work you into our schedule.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's absolutely pursue that idea. Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. Cool. What's on the menu? What's been up on your mind for us to throw on our blank canvas here?
So this past Tuesday, we had an air meeting, and today is Wednesday, so that would have been yesterday.
Yeah.
And Devlin gave an amazing presentation of how he's using AI to build things. Uh,
So let me just put a pause there. Hold on, hold that
go ahead.
thought.
You got it.
What is air? I know what air is, but for anybody listening, like what the heck is air?
So it's mostly internal at our company, Improving, and this is a place where we meet weekly to discuss advancements in AI, how we're using it, coming together to demo some practices that we've folded into what we do. Um, it's basically an AI meet.
Nice, nice, cool. And then
Yeah.
please continue. So in one of these, so this week's air, Devlin
Yes.
was presenting something. Yeah.
Yes. So he's been working on his own side project, and I'm not going to do it justice by trying to describe it, but the way that I understand it is he's building out a platform that he can feed a bunch of elementary level things like mathematics, or not even just elementary, but even advanced topics. He'll feed this documentation into it, and he will train on that document. And then he will ask the model questions, and the model will do like these tool calls and do the math. And a lot of this is written in Python, and a lot of this, maybe even the majority of it, is generated using, in his case, Claude 4 or 5. So it's
Okay.
pretty cool stuff.
Nice, 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 nice. Yes, I was on the call and yeah, it's good stuff. He started like from scratch, right? Like
Yes.
file new and started giving context of what
Yeah.
he was trying to achieve and letting the tool build the plan and go off and do the thing. Yeah.
That was my favorite part because he already has a project that is really mature at this point. He's been working on it for maybe a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and he still came in level one. Hey, where do we start? Because there are a lot of people who are experimenting with these tools, and they may be trying to figure out, how does this fit into an existing project? How does it fit into a greenfield project? How do we begin?
Yeah.
What does it look like? Do we just start saying, build this function, or do we develop a plan first and then begin to execute against it? And there are
Yeah.
many approaches. There's no one way of doing it, which is my favorite part of these meetings, because I try to come in and not let everyone know exactly how I'm doing, because I don't want to poison the well. I want to know
Mm.
what you're doing and how I can
Mm.
fold some of that into what I'm doing. And I'm more than willing to share, but I don't want to, like, at the outset say, "Hey, this is what I do. What do you do?" Yeah.
Right. That's a good approach. Yeah. So, something that I had been noticing, because like folks at improving at some point, they are probably gonna get tired of like just me talking about a lot of stuff, because I tend to give like a lot of internal talks, right? So it's very easy to ask around the office, and so what is Claudio about? What does he talk about? Like people will say the things
Yeah.
that I'm always talking about. So at these meetings, I have been choosing the route of like I'm mostly a listener. Like I wanna hear what other people are doing, what are their challenges, because it's very easy for the loud voices in the room to always be like speaking up
Hmm.
and, oh, I have opinions about this, that, and the others. Like, yeah, great, but what about the people who are quiet and
Yeah.
are not voicing their challenges, what they are trying to do, and whatever the case might be? So last week, I ended up like, okay, I'm gonna show this one thing, and ended up like taking even like way over the allocated time, because I had a lot to show, and it sparked a lot of great conversation.
Yes.
But then, and I even thought, and I said out loud, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it like a series, because this thing that I'm showing here it's the tip of the iceberg. It's one point of an entire workflow. So there's way more than I can fit in an hour conversation. So I
Yes.
thought, well, I don't want to start that as a series and taking up like quite a chunk of every meeting from here on. It's like, no, that's not gonna work. So what I did over the weekend, oh, and I think you're gonna like this. You might have seen I've dropped some of that content in our internal chats. What I did was like, okay, whatever I would be sharing within that 1 hour meeting, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to do some notes and then start recording right on my side, do a screen recording, recording to Mac Whisper, and then I'm dropping that into Notebook LM, right? And I'm telling it what the purpose is for that content. And I'm saying, write me like a blog post type of thing with a good summary of the topic, create me a video overview, the short one, like 5 to 6 minute overview, and then I'm offering all of that in our channels. So I say, okay, if you just have 5 minutes, here's a video overview. If you're into reading, here's a blog post style short thing. If you really want to go deep into what I was doing as I was describing, here's a full blown 1 hour video. Pick your poison, right?
Yes.
Whatever works for you. And that is working out well. I'm excited to be doing that way, because then comes around its airtime, I can just say, hey, I can spend like 5 minutes saying, this is the problem that I tried to address. This is the solution. And then here's a channel with further details if that piques your interest. Maybe it's
Yes.
the time for you to get into that. Maybe it's not the time. When it is, you're going to know where you can go find some resources. That's what I've been
I
experimenting with.
I really like that idea, especially the pick your poison aspect of it, where, hey, if you only got a little bit of time and you're curious, check this out at this level. Same for intermediate and same for advanced. One
Yeah.
thing that I would do, and it's so easy for us to do it at this point, is if you are building out content that is solely for this use, like showing off what you're doing and teaching people, I would also spin up a repo,
Okay.
have people clone it down. And if they do have enough time to do the advanced level where they can watch the entire thing, maybe they want to follow along. just like we did in Air
Mm,
this week.
yes.
Because one thing that really got in the way is every time Devlin is adding a new prompt, the people who are in the audience who do want to follow along, he has to stop, copy what he's already typed out, paste it into the chat, and there's this whole song and dance that repeats. Um, if all of these
Yeah.
prompts are already, pre-planned, there's just a markdown with all the prompts that he uses at each point, and you can
Yeah.
just follow along, copy, paste it into your editor,
Yeah.
and go as you please. One of the fun things about this, because we're using AI and it's non-deterministic, um, there's going to be so much variance from project to project, even though we're all following along and doing the same thing. So we're all going to have these different UIs, for example. We're all going to have these different plans because even if we're pasting the exact same text, there's still going to be
Yeah.
different interpretations of it, depending on what model you're using, depending on a host of different factors. But I think that's beautiful because even though we're all doing the same thing, there's all of these uniquenesses uh,
Yeah.
between them.
Yeah. I appreciate that feedback. I'll think about it. I do have some reservations though
Okay, please
on
share.
that. Um, if I'm thinking here, if I go with like, if I give the prompt for people as a start,
Hmm.
they would just be copying that along, not necessarily understanding how have I come up with that prompt. So I
Yes.
rather like my personal preference is let me explain to you my thought process to come up with that prompt. And if you learn anything from this is how to think for yourself on how to come up with a prompt that makes sense to you because the way I explain something to the tool is the way I am thinking about it.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to learn, it's like if I'm explaining something to you, you have to make it connect to something that connects with you, right? The way you would come up with such a thing without having to copy from this, like, um, what's the expression? It's like coming up from a template
Yeah.
that may not fit you. That's what's coming to mind. It's the whole thing like, don't teach somebody to,
To
don't give
fish.
somebody the fish,
Yeah.
teach them
Yeah.
how to fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
I
right?
follow. I follow.
Yeah. So that's like, as you were saying that, it's what's crossing my mind right now.
Hmm. You don't want to create a situation where the lesson is missed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the same thing. Like, let's say I don't know, there's like some very, uh, there's something that I'm trying to achieve and I need to communicate in English. You tell
Hmm.
me exactly the sentence I have to say, but I don't connect with how you came up with that sentence. I just
Right.
repeat that. Maybe the next time I'm gonna use that sentence in a whole different context,
Hmm.
and people will go like, "I hear your words. It makes no sense here right now."
Yes.
So that's where my parallel was going with the prompt. I may give you exactly the prompt that I've used, but it's not gonna work for you because your context is different. But if you know your context and you know the thought process, you will adjust to whatever you're trying to achieve. That's where my mind is going with that.
And I can appreciate that. So I have a suggestion.
Okay?
As you're making these videos, I would avoid the keyboard altogether then. What I mean is every time that you're prompting into Windsurf, Cursor, or whatever, you're doing voice dictation because the point that you're making will immediately be hammered home. He's just explaining what he wants. He's explaining his details, his preferences, his intentions, and all of this is captured. You see the transcript in the
Yeah.
input, and you submit that. But I wouldn't type
Yes.
anything in because then the point you're making will be hammered home right
Yeah.
away. It's like, oh, he's just describing what it is he wants. I can do that. So
And
I
think
appreciate it.
think about it. Last weekend when I presented at Air, that's exactly what I was doing.
That's
I was
yes.
hitting the shortcut and it
Hmm.
was like what psychographing? What is the word? Like I'm like there's spirits talking to me and I'm saying, well, I need this and I need that and I need this other thing because I'm like, that's the image I have in my mind and I was trying to explain. And that's
Yes.
precisely what I did. And it's funny you mentioned that because last night I actually did something similar. Remember AI first development experience we had earlier this year.
Yes.
In Q1, right? So what that was, we had a group of developers, of improvers, not just developers, who got together for a whole quarter to try to experiment with the idea of AI first development. So as we're developing something, try to use an AI tool first. What would that look like? So at the time, that was when I had a huge breakthrough where I was using Rider at the time and using the AI assistant in Rider, where it was still like they didn't have an agent. It was like you chat into it and then you copy the code, you hit a button to copy the code and so on. And I was achieving certain results there, but it was not getting to what I wanted, which was I want to give natural language into the tool, right? Where I have my user stories, I have my acceptance criteria written in plain English, nothing technical, and I want to see the AI create, like implement that system. So when I switched at that time into Cursor and I gave it a user story, it processed for like 2 or 3 minutes and I saw the thing pop up on the browser, then I was like, that was it, right?
Yes.
At the time, that was previous to us having conversations, and it's like, well, instead of using rule sets, we write instructions, we have a docs folder, we put the context there, right? We were like arriving at that kind of conclusion. It's like, yeah, okay. So after that, I've never revisited that project. Last night, I said, I'm going to pull up that project because it has zero instructions or anything like that. So then I've imported. So that was like why I have a hard time currently just having like file new, because I already have quite a bit of those things. So what I did, a lot of the instructions that I currently have are associated with work that I'm doing for my client, right? So I don't want to just pull that into the presentation. Like within improving, it's fine because we're all under NDA and it's all good. But if I intend on using that content elsewhere, there's more work to do. So last night I did two different things. One was I went into what I created for some instructions on how to write user stories, or how I like writing user stories. And I prompt AI, hey, remove everything that has any connection with this project, and this just pull the generic stuff out, because at the bottom I have a list of my blog posts publicly available that I use to create the core of that document. So it created that. So it's like, yep, that's the plain vanilla one that I need. I dropped it into that project, and then I did precise what you said. And I made a point to do the following. I'm not describing into AI. For one thing, I was dictating into the tool, but I was not describing the feature that I wanted. I was describing the problem statement. This is the problem that I currently have. This is a screenshot of the current application as I see it, and the problems that I'm seeing that it's not helping me solve. And then using that instruction set, write the user stories. It did precisely that, but it came from the I'm explaining. So as long as people can explain their problem statements, there's no like, oh, what was the prompt that you used? Well, the prompt was whatever came out of my mouth as I was explaining the problem. That was the prompt.
I really like this idea. I've been doing an intermediary step. So I will generate a plan, right? From that point, we have enough information. After we vetted this plan, we say, okay, this is something that I think is fine. We will
But hold
then
on. Let
go ahead.
me pause. What is the root of that plan?
The
How do you
why.
start that plan? Okay, so you start with the why.
Absolutely. But what I'm really getting at here is, instead of moving from plan to user stories right away, I will spin up another instance of some model, a separate conversation, and I will feed that document, because this plan is a document at this point, and I will copy the link to this document and I will paste it in, and I will say, vet this plan, poke holes in it, like thoroughly audit it, and create a new document with your findings, red flags, etc. And more often than not, this surfaces issues and concerns that I didn't necessarily find by looking at this plan.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So maybe some people will find this to be unnecessary. Maybe you could, in the original conversation after it's generated the plan, say, hey,
Uh-huh.
you go and audit the thing that you just wrote. But it it seems like while this could work, it it has like this the well has been poisoned in a way because it generated you're then asking it to audit.
Okay. When you create this plan, have you been trying have you been using the plan mode in Cursor?
I have, yes.
Okay, interesting. Because ever since they've added the plan mode, I've been using that for pretty much everything to see
Mhm.
how it works. Does it do
Yes.
things well? And I've been noticing over the last maybe 3 weeks or so since it came out that I say the problem domain, like I've turned my user story instruction into a custom command. So I
Yes.
do slash command, like write user story, and then I go like, blah, here's the problem statement. And sometimes I have that problem statement as a transcript that came from a conversation with
Hmm.
stakeholders. I drop it there, and then it writes stories. But because it's building the plan, in my instruction set, it's depending on if I tell it like include technical considerations, it will
Yes.
also go through the projects, right, to figure stuff out. If I don't include that, I may say, okay, this is the problem statement and everything. Look at this folder that has other stories about features because you're extending on top of that. It used to be that I used to say, once it's done writing that, or even before writing that, I would say, ask me any questions you need,
Yeah.
any questions you have, right? And it would come back with those questions like, that's pretty good. Sometimes I forget to ask that, but the new plan mode, it has been like writing the stories and then adding questions at the end. And some of those questions, like, well, those are pretty good questions. Let me
Yes.
answer, and then it refines those stories. It's like, okay, the stories were already pretty good because there's quite a bit of context about the project, the industry, the wants and needs. So I was like, that's already pretty good. And those questions made it even better.
Yes.
So when you start these to create these plans, do you already have like a pre-established context that it can use, or is it like for brand new ideas that you're exploring?
So for both, either way, I want basically what is effectively a second opinion.
I like that. Yeah.
So every time I spin up a new instance, I think it's useful. Well, for me, it's useful to think of each one of these instances as a new person that I'm dealing with.
Hmm. I
So
like
even if you
that.
have all of this existing context, like you have documents about the existing plan, for example, this new instance has no history of it. This is all new to it. So you can feed
Mm-hmm.
in that context and bring it up to speed, but it's the same thing I would do if we were bringing in a new developer, for example, and bringing that
Sure.
person up to speed with what we've got going on.
Right.
So whether it's greenfield or whether it's an existing project, I still prefer this second opinion approach because it always
Yeah.
uncovers something that I did not consider.
Now, and I like that, do you apply that for every single thing you do, or do you like,
Not
well, it
everything
depends
I
on the
do.
nature of the thing I'm building?
Right. So I have a new project. It's pretty mature at this point, and you've seen it. This is the voice journaling thing that I've been working on.
Yeah.
And here at the HQ, my girlfriend and we talk about a new feature that we would like to add to it. And we will have an entire meeting. We will do the song and dance of taking that audio, turning it into a transcript, and getting action items from it. And from that point, we have a transcript yet again to feed into a model and say, hey, here's the idea that we want to build out. Here's some of the conversation that we had about this idea. Now you have all of this context. Use your imagination to enhance the idea even further. So we get to plan
Mm,
that way because we don't have like stakeholders. We don't have people who we need to talk to who have these specific demands. We get to
mm,
basically combine forces with AI to take something that we thought was worth exploring and explore it further with assistance.
mm. Yep, I like it. I like it. And it makes me think also depending on like the idea that you're building on and how you're trying to explore that, using notebook LMs, audio analysis, debate, critique, and see what comes out of that.
The same
as
idea.
well. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
In fact, this week I used it for something that's like, oh, I'm really digging this because I'm like heavily involved. I've been thinking a lot about this, not really a loop, it's a spiral that goes between data and impact.
Okay.
Right. So goes from have we talked about that yet?
We have not.
Okay. So hear me out. So
listening.
The way I've been articulating this to people. So we are in the IT industry, right? What does IT stand for?
Information technology.
Information technology. So information technology, right? Information is something that I've been using this quote by Tony Robbins. We are drowning in information. We are starving for wisdom. So what is the relevance of having information technology? If we're drowning in information, it's clear that we don't need information, right? It's something else that we need. And like in this case, he said, we're starving for wisdom. So how do we go from information to wisdom? Okay. How do we make information? It comes from data, which a lot of us in this industry, we're like obsessed with data. It's all about the data. Show me the data. When unless you are a data scientist, you don't want the data, right? You want to take that data, turn that into information, but then it doesn't end there. In our industry, specifically like consultants, we are so-called knowledge workers.
Yeah.
Knowledge workers, not information workers, not data workers, knowledge workers. So how do we turn information into knowledge, right? So that would be the next step. And then I think like, oh, a lot of us use the personal acknowledgement systems, right? Management systems, PKM, when people do things like, oh, I'm reading a book on Kindle, and then I highlight a passage, and it goes straight into my PKM, my Obsidian. It's like, well, that is not your knowledge. Just because you read it once, you highlighted, and it went into your thing, it's not knowledge. You haven't done anything with it, right? So from there, you may have data, information, knowledge. Did it give you any insight? Did you make you go like, oh, now the bits are connecting, and I think there are some actionable things that I can do from that. Right. So insights would be the next step. You go from that, you start collecting insights over time, you build wisdom. Right? The insights you collected through life, through, your values and goals and belief system, you build some sort of wisdom so that you know how to better use the data, the information, the knowledge, and the insights you gather. You with me so far?
I'm with you.
Cool. So now, what is the point? Even if you like, yeah, we are starting for wisdom. Great. Now we acquire all of this wisdom. And we sit at the top of the mountain like a guru, and we do nothing with that wisdom. What is the value of that? Right? Why have we acquired all of that wisdom and we don't do anything with it? What is the value of that? Then the next stop is impact, right? Have we been able to acquire all of this wisdom and make a positive impact through all of that? And once we have achieved some sort of impact, and I was like, oh, great, I was able to cure this kind of disease. Great. How can I make a bigger impact? At that point, you would think, well, maybe I need to start collecting some data, and then the spiral continues, right? Now we're going to have better wisdom, right? Better knowledge, better insights to achieve the impact, and then figure out what is the kind of data that we should start collecting next to turn into information, knowledge, and so on.
Yes.
So I started like pitching this idea. Maybe instead of IT, information technology, it should be impact technology. We are using technology to create some sort of impact, not to gather more information and not know what to do with it and drown into it. is to eventually turn into impact and make something good out of it. I'll let you think about it and ask questions,
I'm
and I'll have some other things to share.
sure. Um, I'm always imagining anytime anyone's talking, I have a very visual imagination. Well, that's one way of describing it. And to put it in more plain terms, when someone is explaining an idea, I can immediately begin to see it, especially if they're very clear about what they're saying. I'm going to see it regardless. So if it doesn't seem to be all that coherent, I'm going to see that as well.
Right.
But I like this idea because it seems like an engine that is producing some output while you're moving forward. So the way that I'm seeing it is like this spiraling forward towards some end. Um, and not even towards an end. It's like spiraling forward in perpetuity as long as you can find more information to turn into knowledge, to turn into wisdom, and again and again and again while moving forward. Um,
Yeah.
so I really like this idea, but what stopped me, well, not to stop me, what stood out to me was the question you asked about the guru who's at the top of the mountain, who has amassed all of this wisdom that he doesn't seem to be applying. And you're asking, how useful is this if you're not doing anything with it? Or another question you might ask is, why even gain all of this wisdom to just sit on it?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have any real value? And I don't know the answer to that question. It seems like you've arrived at your answer where it's like, well, there is no value. Like he just amassed a bunch of information or wisdom that he's not doing anything with. Um, I guess it's useless if that guru just stays on the top of the mountain and they don't interact with anyone. If this guru comes down from on high and is in community with other people, just by talking to him, everything that he says is going to be informed by that wisdom that he's amassed. And I think there's a lot of value with that. This is not to say,
100%.
and this is not me suggesting that, hey, people build up a bunch of wisdom just to hoard it, or just to be able to share with other people, even though I think that's a great idea. I think you should apply the wisdom that you've amassed, but um, I think part of amassing it, I think there just is a value there. Even if you don't know what you're going to do with it right away, I think there's just a value of being curious and wanting to know more about things that are going on around you.
Well, but yeah, at that point, you're making an impact. You are doing
Yeah,
something with it, right? You are doing, if you are creating, causing an impact to somebody or something, right? Then yeah, you are making an impact. Maybe if you are like a guru, I'm thinking like this at the top of a mountain, maybe
hmm,
you're not even having a conversation with others, but your wisdom allowed you to figure out how to take care of nature around you,
yes,
planting trees or whatever it is, sustainability and all that stuff. You are making an impact. Even if you're not like talking to others, you are making an impact. You're making something with the wisdom that, you know, you've amassed. Right?
agreed.
I can see the wheels spinning there. So from that perspective, there have been many reasons why I've been like, and that's actually written on my big whiteboard here where I go
Nice.
data through impact and then makes it way around and it's a spiral, it keeps going up,
Hmm.
right? And then how present, past, and future connects all of that, because all of that we need to acknowledge the passage of time,
Yes.
right? That cannot all happen on a single day, right? So we gather data right now in the present. That data will quickly become past and will inform decisions for our foresight, right? Based on our wisdom, is like, okay, when I've seen that kind of data, that kind of information, that kind of knowledge, this is kind of like what happened. So I have a foresight that if I keep doing this, I'm seeing the trajectory, that's where we might end up, right?
Yes.
We don't know for a fact. And then I've been thinking about like the lived experience, mediated experience, but that's a whole different ball game. But
I don't know if
where
it's
I
different.
went, it's not different. It's just like that connects with the, yeah, if you read a passage on a book, you highlight it, it went into your, PKM,
Yeah.
That is your mediated experience. You've read it somewhere.
Hmm.
It's somebody else's experience, or maybe it's not even that somebody else. It's like somebody who wrote about somebody else's
Right.
experience, right? So at
It's
that
an
point, it's
experience that
mediated,
someone had.
right?
And you've
It
just
isn't
basically
a
put it into your save for later is what you've
save for
done.
later.
Right.
And then if you don't do anything with it, it will never become lived experience.
Right.
So that is the thing. Like if you collected all of this wisdom, quote unquote, but you haven't done anything with it, is it wisdom really? If you have not done anything with it, you don't have lived experience. You
I don't
have
know
all
if you
this
have.
information you collected, all of this knowledge you collected, but if you didn't do anything with it, have you experienced it yourself?
No.
So
No.
is it
You've
wisdom at that
read.
point?
I, it's just knowledge at that point.
It's just knowledge, right?
So that means you're describing a formula for arriving at wisdom at this point. And I think that's a useful thing. Like knowledge plus lived experience. Quasi equals wisdom. I think there are a few more variables that we could be missing, but I think these are two of the base elements that lend to that kind of outcome, building wisdom.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because and that's another thing, like we were talking about this not too long ago, like when I had this realization, it's like, and I felt stupid. It's like, oh, I never thought about it that way, like what insight means. It's like insight. It's present moment. It's in your face, insight. That's why it's called insight. It's one of those that, like, being born and raised in Brazil, the word insight, we don't really have a Portuguese equivalent for that. So we use the word in English insight,
Okay.
which do not have the same connotation. Like insight, no, it's just insight. It just means this thing that we have to somehow try to describe what that is. When it dawned on me, that's like, yeah, it's insight, it's present moment, it's in your face. Quite possibly you have some knowledge, you did something, and then right in front of you, you have that insight. Why? You actually experience the thing. You've made some sort of connection
Yes.
of knowledge and the like applying that knowledge to some things like, oh, that's what happens when I put that knowledge into work. That's why it's insight. Like,
I like that. I like that framing. Hmm. So and with the fear of taking us off the path here, um, it would seem if there isn't a word for something that you're describing in your native language, for example, like you don't have the word insight in Portuguese, um, there must be something in Brazil that would describe that experience of having insight without having to use this English equivalent. For example, um, there's a word, saudade, in Portuguese that does not have an English equivalent. And if I were to go to Brazil and begin to use it, it would seem a little out of place because there's a cultural connection between how this word is used and the experience that it really represents, which is more than to just miss
right.
someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there must be something. And you grew up in Brazil. So how would you describe, you know what insight means now. How would you describe, and you've experienced having insight prior to knowing this English equivalent. So what would you have called it before then?
It's going to be very hard to tell you because I don't remember exactly when I've heard it the first time in Brazil, but it would be something like, hey, Matthew, Portuguese, 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 I have an insight for you. But like Portuguese, Portuguese, insight, Portuguese, Portuguese.
Right.
So it was like this thing, whatever it is that people are trying to. So it's like it's something that you have. So then you have to conceptualize this, like, what is this insight? It's some piece of information that will be useful for you. It's a connection that I've made when I tried something, like now I have a new insight to share with you. But then you picture something like, maybe it's a picture, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a blog article, make it say something tangible. That's the insight. Oh, it's confusing. I've been thinking about it. It's like, how else would we describe that without using the English word insight? And it's been hard. Same thing with I mentioned hindsight. It's another one that I'm like, how did we say that? We would say something like in retrospect,
Yeah.
right? Which is like similar, but it doesn't have like the visual connotation of hindsight. You're looking back. It doesn't have the same association, or even foresight. It would be something like, well, I have a prediction, which not necessarily is the same thing. But then again, the visual thing of foresight, it's ahead of you.
Yes.
That connotation does not exist there. So we have to make different connections. So that's why when I come to these realizations about the word, it puts another spin, another perspective on how I'm making other connections now that the word materialized like that in my brain. It's the weirdest thing, man.
One of the reasons that I asked this to tie it all together to this AI base that we have here for the conversation. When we interact with these tools, we're using our voice, whether it's voice dictation or whether we're typing. And the things that we're typing when we're asking it to build out this thing or help me imagine or whatever, your command of whatever language it is that you're using is strongly tied to the quality of the outcomes that you're going to get.
Yeah.
So if there is this idea that you are reaching for but don't have the language to really express, it becomes really difficult. I mean, this is why we have community. Like, for example, if you were earlier in your journey of learning English, we could work together because you'd have enough English to say, hey, this is what I am attempting to describe. Do you have a word in English for that?
Correct.
Even now with AI, a lot of this is possible, and it's been possible for quite some time. Even with things like Google Translate. Like Google Translate is far from perfect, but it does a sufficient job of me expressing something in Portuguese, for example, and getting an English quasi equivalent, something that's close enough to get the job done. It just may not be the way I would say it in English. But at that point, you'd have enough information just using Google Translate to say, hey, this is what I'm attempting to say. How would you say that? And then I might use an idiom that it's describing. It's like, oh, it takes two to tango or whatever.
Right.
But because we're using language, I think we have to do a little bit more when we're teaching people how to use these tools, because some people have this desire to treat it like Google, where you're giving some query and it provides you an answer. But we can do much better. And bridging like some of these language gaps, even in English, for example, they're just it's a really colorful language, and there are many words that could be said to represent the same thing. So if you're talking and you're using a word that I am not familiar with, I do have the power in real time to look it up. But there could be other cases. Let's say you have people from some communities where they're using language that is non-standard, and this is the best way they know to communicate an idea. So when they use AI, it is impacted by that in a way because there's an accessibility issue. This thing that I am trying to describe that makes sense to all of the people around me, AI isn't understanding it. What do we do there? I mean, I have some ideas, but these are some of the things I think about. I think about accessibility when it comes to these tools. One of the reasons is the client that I'm working on now, they care about accessibility. And there are people who are using voice readers. So they're browsing the entire website without being able to see anything.
Wow.
So if
That's
you have a
fascinating.
if you have a MacBook, you can do Command F5 and it will turn on voiceover. And
Mm,
whatever you're hovering over, whatever your input is near, you're mostly tabbing around the screen because that's the way browsers work. Tap from one thing to the next. And of course, there are shortcuts if you get really good with these tools. Like a person who is blind, for example, or visually impaired, they have to get really good at using these tools. And I attempted to use it myself as a person who is doesn't have this limitation. I can see everything in front of me. It was like,
yeah.
wow. It was mind blowing because this is something I don't really give a consideration to as I'm building. It's like, so there's
Yeah.
entire groups of people who I'm building stuff and putting it out in public, and I'm not putting it out in a way where it can easily be consumed by them. And it doesn't
Yeah.
take a whole lot of effort to to meet these standards, these accessibility standards. You put some tags here, ARIA labels there, and it's like taking something that is dark and adding bits of light where people who are visually impaired can start to see in the room that you're putting
Yeah.
them in.
Yeah. As you describe it, we have with improving a business license to Coursera.
Hmm.
In one course that I've been taking for several months now, it's a very extensive course, is the Google UX design course. And there's a whole module and that they bring that up a lot, like designing for inclusivity, like you're mentioning, and they talk about like the screen readers and how to create like the hierarchy of the page so that using the headers and everything so that the readers will know if it needs to go deep or just stay at the top level. It's like
Yes.
I never even thought of that. So they have like a whole module just on educating like things to be on the lookout for. How do you appeal to those? And like if somebody is like permanently disabled to do
Yes.
something or maybe temporary, like, oh, I broke my right hand, I'm gonna use only the left one or whatever it is. Like, is it something temporary, permanent? How do we design for that? It's tough.
So
It's not easy at all.
I bring that up because that's a more obvious example where we're talking about
Hmm.
accessibility in a website. So to
Yeah.
take this back to voice dictation, you are attempting to express some ideas. There's a diversity of language that we have. And not everybody, even native speakers, has all of the language they need to express the ideas that they are attempting to. Um, and not everybody has a very, very clear awareness of it. And what I mean by that is this. You give AI some prompt, you tell it to do a thing, and it's going to understand you as you wrote the sentence.
Mm,
And if this sentence um, can be read and interpreted in a different way, maybe the other way is the way that it's going to interpret it. So the output that it gives you isn't what you're expecting, not even in alignment with it.
yeah.
So at that point, you may say, "Oh, this thing just doesn't work well. It's dumb. It doesn't um, give good answers." And the real problem here is the input.
Yeah. So there, yes. So there are, I think about it through the following lens. When prompting I'm deliberate at asking it for the desired outcome, not the desired output,
Hmm.
right? Um, Meaning, if I give it the desired outcome, there can be different outputs that will
Absolutely.
lead me to that outcome. So if I know what that outcome is, and that ties us back to the impact. There's an excellent book called Impact Mapping, where the author talks about that. Like at the end of the day, we're trying to reach some sort of impact. We're building software, we're building a service, a product, whatever that is. We're trying to make some sort of impact. Do we have that clear? What is that impact we're trying to create? For that impact, there are different outcomes that can lead us to that. for each one of those outcomes, you can have different outputs that will produce those outcomes, right? And then you look at, okay, what is the input that we get? What are the paths that we can take that input through to get those output that will produce the different types of outcomes leading us to the impact?
Yes.
Right. So having like this holistic view of everything, I think that is the skill to develop. Personally, I think that's the skill to develop.
I'm in agreement with it, but it's like these are some of the things that we don't lead with when we talk about how to teach people to use AI or when we're sharing our own experiences with it. You don't have to be like some wizard to get great outputs from these tools. There just needs to be a little bit of finesse. There needs to be a very clear understanding of what the why is, this impact that you're trying to make. And if you have that really clear, and if you don't have it clear, if it's not clear for you yet, you can work with these tools to refine the idea until it comes into shape.
Yes. So thank you. That ties us back to where I started with like how I used a few days ago Notebook LM
Yes.
to develop and explore this, like going from data through impact, because you've heard me talking about my approach to user stories, right? Or to stories as I like to see them, and making them start like where the first sentence tells us the why. The behavior change that we are looking to make, which should lead to some sort of impact. Start like right there at the top, right? And then I gave it some like some real world scenarios to exercise. Okay, this is data, this is information, this is knowledge, insight, and so on, all the way up to impacts, and using the produce industry as an example, right? Because it's very easy for anybody in the produce industry to say, oh, I have my warehouse here, my inventory, I need data. Give me my data. I push back when I hear that. I say, do you really want your data? And then may even just like drop them data and say, okay, what are you going to do with that? Because data, again, unless you're a data scientist, what are you going to make out of it? Oh, I'm going to throw that all into a spreadsheet. Okay, now let's start talking. You're turning that into a spreadsheet because you're going to transform that into information. You're going to try to find out what kind of knowledge it will give you. You're going to set up some formulas, some charts and stuff to give you insights. You see where I'm going with that? So it's like, and then eventually, like somebody who owns a warehouse for the produce industry, what they want is to have their inventory as low as possible, high enough to just fulfill the next day orders, right? But not beyond that, because like something that I heard from business stakeholders, which I thought that is the best way to describe the need. They said, if it ain't selling, it's smelling.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not selling your produce, it's smelling. It's very visceral. That's the thing that the human feels through their senses. That's the problem that they are trying to solve. So how do we go from data to the wisdom that, okay, I know that under the following temperature, those bananas that came in 3 days ago, with the current temperature in the warehouse, in 3 days, they will go bad.
Yes.
Right? So what would the wisdom tell you? Drop the temperature by this many degrees. It will extend the shelf life for another 7 days. So that's putting wisdom into practice. And then the impact is, well, my revenue, my profit is going to go up. My losses are going to go down. That's the kind of impact. And like the waste, like how many bananas are going to go to waste because they went, it's like, you're going to diminish that. So I threw that out at Notebook LM.
Yes.
And I said, here is something that I'm experimenting with stories, because stories we articulate saying, oh, they have to describe the business value. And everybody stops at the business value. But there's more to it, right?
Yes.
There's literature that says business value, customer value, user value, societal value, and alignment value. If you can hit all of those, that is where you're going to create the biggest impact. Otherwise, if you're only serving the business, what about the customers? What about the society? What about the user who has to work with that all day long? So I threw all of that at Notebook Element and say, okay, given this produce example that I gave you, write up stories that will cover all of those values, that will speak to the business all the way down to alignment. Oh, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing what came up. I'm refining this content to put it out somehow, because like what came out is like that. If you can just like start, if you can get people talking, and you hear like somebody who says, oh, I don't know what to say. What I know is that if the thing is not selling, it's smelling.
Yes.
Okay, say no more. Because we know what thing is not selling. If we have the data and all, we put it all together, we throw it on LLM and we say, now cut us the user stories that will help us address this from all these perspectives as far as value goes.
The conversations, that's where all of this begins and ends. Out of the conversation, you might discover, oh, we're based in a country that has rolling blackouts or brownouts. So for certain periods of the day, the warehouse simply cannot be that temperature. So that has to factor in to this math that we're doing. But again, all of this comes out of these conversations, because if you discover that little detail later down the line, it's going to cost.
Exactly.
Lowering the temperature of the warehouse is going to cost. So now you have to weigh something there. Of course, we want to extend the shelf life of the bananas, but if the cost of electricity is at whatever value and it's really getting high, we can't operate in that in that window. So again, conversations are where all of these details come from. And if you don't know to ask, then it gets tricky, which is why I love this idea of using like these personas. Hey, you're an expert in this. Here's your background. I'm going to ask you questions and help me uncover some of my blind spots as it relates to this subject matter. And always has been great for me when I've been doing this.
Well, 100%. Yeah. And as you said, if you know the questions, and if you don't, that's where you ask, right? Okay, I heard from, say, stakeholders that they want this.
Yes.
Let me work through it. And it's like, okay, give me some user stories and ask me questions about it. And ask me questions I should be asking the stakeholders. I've been doing this, right? It's like, ask me questions. I will answer what I have.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now that we got this, ask me what questions I should ask the stakeholders. And it's like, that is brilliant.
Yes.
And if there are terms that, and sometimes it comes back with terms that I'm like, I have no idea what that even means. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
And then when I show up with the stakeholders and I ask them those questions, like, how do you know that? We haven't talked about that before. And then it's like, well, yeah, that's, I've been using AI. It's not because I'm extra smart. It's just I'm using the tools I have to try to better serve you.
What I'm thinking about is more demos. We need to figure out how to create more. You talk about the concept of the 30-second wow. And this is whatever you're showing off. If you can capture the audience in the first 30 seconds, you've got something on your hands. You've got something that's going to leave a lasting impression.
Right.
I want to construct demos where we just win people over. And it's because we've shown off something so fascinating, so captivating, something that brings out the wows.
Yeah. And I think yesterday I was like in between meetings at the client. So I had my AI on one side doing something while I was like condensing and reviewing some content on the side. And then I was catching up with messages in our internal chats. And at Improving in Houston, we have a program called Tech Fridays,
Yep.
right? Where every other week we get together and somebody shares some content, some presentation, and we were trying to figure out the availability, like what Fridays are available to put a talk, and then who are the hosts for that. So as part of the conversation, like there's one of our improvers who keeps a spreadsheet with that information, but now we're trying to bring on more people to help offload some of that. So, oh, how are we going to share that spreadsheet and that and this and that and the other? As they were having that conversation, I kid you not, I went into AI Studio. I talked to it for like 5 minutes explaining the problem that I was trying to solve. And I said, build me a little app for that. I kid you not, within 15 minutes, I had an app deployed that I sent people the link and I said, something like this, would that help?
Yeah.
The light bulb that went off is it had been in the past and it still is in the moment where people have ideas like that. Most of us tend to default to creating a spreadsheet, right? Oh, I have some data that I need to collect, turn that into information that I need to do whatever to solve a certain problem. But the way to go was like, I'm going to create a spreadsheet. With the tools that we have now, just articulate your problem. Let the tool create something for you. Even if it's not going to be the final thing, at least you have something that is not a spreadsheet. It's something that's going to
Yes.
closer to the possible solution to the problem that you're describing. And that it took 15 minutes in between tasks. It's not that 15 minutes of my time, it was like 5 minutes just getting my thoughts out, letting AI do its work while I'm doing something else. And then, oh, you're done? Hold on. I like that. Oh, change that. Change this other thing. Okay, go. And then I say something in the channel. Another idea pops up like, oh, also do this other thing. That quick. So that is the 30-second wall would be something like that.
I agree.
Mm,
We actually tried to pull something like this off for our presentation.
yeah.
And I think we got really close. There was a and we're getting way outside of the bounds of the podcast at this point. Um, but in preparing for that presentation, we did a demo, and the only other person in the room with us was Eric.
Right.
And I like to think of him as a person that isn't easily impressed. Um, so we pull up AI Studio, we type in the prompt, and at this point we're talking about recreating something in Engage or enhancing an Engage feature.
And just quick
And
side note, Engage is an internal platform that we use, right, with some of our internal things. Yeah.
correct. So AI Studio spits out this output. And Eric looks up from his laptop because he's doing his own thing as well while he's in there with us hanging out. And he's like, did it generate that? And at that moment, when I just heard the curiosity in his voice, I was like, oh, this is something special.
Yeah.
So software on demand. And
Yeah.
maybe when you spit your idea into this thing, it tells you you're going to need a spreadsheet that will work best. And okay, it's fine at that point. But if it can go beyond that and
Hmm.
create something more bespoke, more custom, that is closer to what the client actually wants or what they actually want, that's special.
Yeah. And it's something I've been telling people. I have a note blog post I put out, show me your spreadsheet. Because any new client, new company, new people that I'm talking to try to help them through technology, as they start talking, I say, just stop explaining, just show me your spreadsheets. I know that they are there. You're using spreadsheets to make decisions. And it's fine to have it there if it helps the person articulate what problem is it solving to them. Because like it's all this data and I have all this like the pivot tables and this and that, and these are the answers that I'm looking for. Okay, that whatever gets us to that need, the quicker we can get to that, the better. So that's where my mind goes. Like, if developers hear out business people and start thinking, this database, this cloud infrastructure, this like, no, stop all of that.
Yeah,
Not the time for that yet. You have to be here, not over there. Right?
agreed.
Learning to developing those listening skills so that you can then relate that into some sort of tool to then say like create the problem statement out of this to make sure it's clean. The person looks at it as like, that's exactly my problem. Okay, hello AI, give me a prototype, give me something that we can be both looking at the same thing and having the conversation, having the collaboration over something that's more tangible than waiting for, oh, wait, I'm creating these databases, I'm putting it up on the cloud, I'm doing this other thing, and then the person is already talking to somebody else.
Right. One of the benefits of, let's say, recording these meetings that you have with clients, even if you are a person who's always thinking about like the architecture, when the person is sharing their ideas and what they want to actually achieve, you're like, okay, I can use this service, that tool, this service, that tool. If this conversation is recorded, because old habits are hard to break, it's difficult to tell people,
Yes.
hey, when you're in these meetings, try to think about this in a different way, in a way that's
Yes.
less natural for you because of the way that you've been trained to think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if this meeting is recorded, we have the benefit of extracting all of this stuff that you missed because you're off thinking about which cloud
Yep.
platform you want to use.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, and when I say things like that, I hate for people to think that I'm being like dismissive of the importance of these things. It's not at all that they're not important. It's just that they're not important now.
That's
Wait.
right.
Just wait a little bit more now. Now tell me everything there is to know about that. But don't preload that because like it's just not the right moment.
Correct.
Right?
But
Yeah.
because that part of it is a lot more difficult to break these old habits, because that's just how some people think.
Yeah.
But if this entire conversation is recorded, we get to extract things by looking at it from different perspectives. So
Yes.
after you've taken off your, I want to look at it through this architectural lens, I can look at it in a different way, in a broad set of ways, because handing
Yeah.
off the transcript to some LLM, or even like Notebook LLM, which is the great example, show me some opposing perspectives to this idea.
Yeah.
You take one position, you take the other, and I want to hear you two debate about it. That's
Mm.
one of my favorite features out of Notebook LLM right now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I've been using that for a lot of stuff. Like it's like as I'm dropping things into it and asking it for analysis, that's one of the things that's like, yeah, do the critique, do the debate, and I listen to it because it's a lot of good stuff. And oh, here's the idea that came up. You know, you're familiar with postmortems, right? When you
yes.
have a project, at the end, you do the postmortem. I've heard of people doing a pre-mortem.
Mm,
Have you heard of that?
I have not.
So it's like before you even start the project, you do a pre-mortem. It's like, what could go wrong? And if that went wrong, what are the things that, yeah, at the end, we're going to be like, oh, how come we didn't see that before? Right? So instead of like waiting until it has happened and then looking back, you're back here before even starting and thinking, okay, play into the future and think, what would that future look like? If everything goes well, if everything goes bad, if something goes bad, why is it? If you can picture that idea, oh, this could go really bad. Okay, how did you get there? How do we make sure to plan so that we can avoid those traps that would cause that? So I'm thinking of like prompting some of these tools to ask for a pre-mortem.
I really like that idea. And when it comes to something as large as a company, for example, if you're doing these pre-mortems, in a way, this is doing like some forecasting into the future. But we can do better. So, of course, we want to forecast and imagine things that could go bad. But what if we have like our own company's historical data about all of the projects that we've worked on and what has went right, what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and we feed that
Mm.
in, and we
Hmm?
can use that to help guide how it looks into the future because it's undergirded by the past.
Yeah. So that speaks to data, information, knowledge, insights, wisdom that has been built over time. What is the trajectory? So based on that trajectory, looking from behind, where is it taking us? If we keep doing things exactly the way we do right
That's right.
now, what is the trajectory? If we change some of those variables, how is it gonna, change that trajectory going forward? Yeah.
I like it. Pre-mortem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Experiment with that. I have like a little side thing that I've been experimenting with on the side. I'm gonna apply that. See what comes out.
Cool. Um,
Nice.
it is 7:18. We're a little bit over, about 20 minutes
Sure.
over.
Sure.
And as much as I would love to hang out and continue to have these conversations, as we will continue to do week after week,
Yeah,
I have to go and be dad and eat food.
absolutely.
So
And be good at that. I know that you are, and keep doing that. Savor those moments because they go by too fast, if you ask me.
I've heard that many times. So I try to be more present.
100%. So please go do that. It was an amazing conversation. That was great, man.
Always. So this is episode 5. This is the third place we've recorded in at this point, and maybe the
Yeah.
next time we'll be at a coffee shop. Until next time.
There you go. See ya.
Later, dude.